Hey guys, we're ready to roll our 92 OBS into the paint booth. That's right, but it's not quite time to paint it yet. So if you watched last week, we worked out some of the bad spots in the hood. We worked out the fenders where the tires had gotten into them. We used our maxi, we pulled out some of the metal, and we did a little bit of filler work. And then after that, I went ahead and I prepped the rest of the truck because it was just a lot of sanding, a little more putty work here and there. So I went ahead and I took care of all of that. What I've done now is we still don't have our bushings for the front control arms, so I just put everything back together under the front end, and I want to prime it in the booth. So the booth is about 30 feet from the door in this building, so we don't have to go very far at all. So we're going to try to drive it over there, see if we can't get it into the booth, prepped, we'll get it primed, get it all masked up, all that good stuff. So also, appreciate you guys watching, appreciate all the support, all the nice comments, and entering that Vim Tool giveaway. Congrats to that winner. We're going to be announcing some more giveaways soon, possibly in this video, so stay tuned till the end, and hopefully we'll have something to give away again by the end of this video. So what we're going to do now is, since we're under such a crunch on this thing, we're trying to get it ready for battle in Bama, which is only a couple of months away. We've got to do graphics, we got to clear, cut and buff, rebuild the interior, engine panels. Lots of stuff to do on the underside. I don't know that we can complete all that by the time that show gets here, but we're gonna see how much of it we can get done. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna hop in it, we're gonna drive it across the way and get it in the paint booth and see if we can't get this mask up and in primer. I didn't bore you with the masking. I can mask a lot faster when you're not watching. So we got it masked up. So what we've done is we've masked off everything that's not going to get primer. So the bed sides are going to get primed. If we move down to the door, we've got this wiggle that we repaired. It's going to get primed. So what we've done is we've back masked everything, which means we've got a soft edge, but when I mask these, I'm masking way further out than I'm going to prime anyway. So for instance, on the door, where we've got the putty spot right in the middle, we've got a lot of room past that. So when I prime, I'm not getting up to the tape. So what that's going to do is it's not going to allow us to even take a chance really of getting a hard edge. The problem is when you get a hard edge, or if you tape it hard and you don't back mask it where it gets a roll in it, you tend to kind of chase that line. And once you paint it, you can see that line and you just chase it all over the place. It just makes it harder to get a nice result. So the key is to back mask for one, so if you do get it up there, you're getting a soft edge. But I like to always go further out than where I'm actually going to get primer, unless we have a spot like right here where we've got the body line in the bottom of the bed. There's no reason to prime the bottom right here because it's still in nice shape. So we're just wasting material and we're wasting time. But where we have this body line and we have a peak, we can back mask off that peak. We can prime down to that, and when we block it, it's kind of already on that rolled body line. Never going to know that. You're never going to see it. So right now, I think we've got everything pretty well ready to go. I've got it wiped down. We've just got to get a gun out, get some primer mixed up, and I think we're good to go. So I had a little bit of a hiccup here. If you watch this when we painted the 49 Chevy, we've got all of our solder guns that we use, and I absolutely love those, but those take a disposable cup. They're now making an aluminum cup for it, but I don't have one of those yet, and I still forgot to order the disposable cups. We've been priming and doing a lot of stuff around here, and I'll go to order them and just totally have a brain fart and forget to do it. But I wanted to show them to you, even though we're not going to get to use them, because they're really awesome. So if you're doing a lot of priming, a lot of painting, I would really recommend these guns because they've done really well for us. When we're spraying polyester, we're using the Cytojet 100 BP. It's the black gun. Look at that monster tip. I want to say it's a 2.5 or a 2.8. It may be even bigger than that. I can't remember now. And then for our urethane primers like we would spray today, this is where we would use the SodaJet 100BF. This is an HVLP gun. I think it's got around a 2.0 tip in it. Still a pretty large tip, but they spray really, really nice. They spray it really even, really level. And then this would be my base and clear gun. These are the SodaJet X5500 guns. Amazing, amazing guns. I really hate, we'll definitely have cups before we paint the truck. I made sure to go ahead and get those on order. So what we're gonna have to do today is, we're just gonna break out the old primer gun. We used it last week. This is where it just goes to show, take care of your guns. Even though this is a primer gun, it looks a little worn and beat up. We take care of it, we break them down, we clean them out. Probably been priming with this gun for about, I'm gonna say close to 10 years now, if I had to guess. This one's got about a 2.0 tip in it. So it's gonna be perfect for what we're spraying today with the urethane. So unfortunately, we can't use the sodas. Really wish we could, but it's just not gonna happen. So let's grab the primer and I'll show you what we're using. So what we're about to lay down now is the EverCoat uro-fill primer. This is an acrylic urethane primer surfacer. So this has got a pretty good build to it. It lays down really nice. It blocks like butter. And this would be what I would lay down for the final round of primer on our overall builds before we finish, because we would do our fillers, our putties if we need it. Then we would do a round or two of the EverCoat super build primer, and then on our last prime we do the uro-fill surfacer. So this stuff lays down nice, blocks really good. So let's get a few coats down. got 3 medium wet coats down. Should block out really nice. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it, so I can see down it now. It's all looking really good. Now normally we would let this sit for a few months before we would even touch it. We'd set it out in the sun, we'd let it bake, cure, do all that, let all those solvents get out. Obviously, we've only got a couple months till this show, so we can't do that, but I'm gonna let it sit as long as we can. So I'm gonna try to at least give it a week or 2 out in the sun. Hopefully we'll have some good hot days, help get that stuff out of there, and we'll figure out maybe what we can do in the meantime. If our bushings come in, we may be able to rebuild that front end, or we might be able to start templating for some engine panels, or mess with the interior. Or wait and we'll just block this in a week. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's all looking good. So we've got the truck out of the booth. We've been letting it sit outside in the sun for a while, so it's been baking, kind of doing its thing. So we're running out of time. We need to start blocking on it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna lay down some dry guide coat. We've got some Indasa dry guide coat. I really like this one. That's gonna show us if we've got any low spots, imperfections, pinholes, anything like that left behind. And then as far as the blocking goes, there's a lot of different ways that you could do this. This could be one of those debatable things with what you start with. We could start with 80 grit, we could step our way up to 400, 500, 600, paint it. Everything's pretty good and filler already, and then we've laid down a few coats. So I'm pretty confident that everything is straight. So we're gonna hit this with 220 on a block. If everything looks like it's blocking out good, we're gonna re-guide coat it. We're gonna block it with 400, and then we're gonna get this thing back in the booth and start masking it up for paint. If we run into anything along the way, obviously I'll stop and show you what we're dealing with, but let's get to blocking. See, as we were blocking, we still had a little guide coat here, a little guide coat here. These are a couple spots I didn't see. You couldn't feel them. Probably if we ran the light in the other direction, we might have saw a couple little wiggles right there. But we had enough primer, enough product on here that we could block that out and get it level. So I spent the rest of the day getting everything blocked out. Everything looks really good. We used our quick check. We wet it all down. Don't really see anything crazy sticking out at us. All looks really good. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get everything blown off. We're gonna get the jams blown out. We're gonna get this thing washed down and then get it into the booth. We're also gonna get everything out from inside the cab, out from inside the bed. Just get it all cleaned out and get it as clean as we can before we go into the booth. Then we're gonna go over the masking and see if we can't get it based today. So one thing we're gonna have to do that's a little different from what I'm typically doing, because we're normally doing these full builds, so everything's blown apart. We don't paint anything together unless we're doing graphics. Well, this one, we're leaving it together because the jams, everything, they're already done. We're gonna mask those off real nice. And we're gonna base it, and then we're gonna intercoat, clear it, and then we're gonna lay down our flames. Once we get our flames laid down, and we're happy with all that, we're gonna unbolt the bed and slide the bed back. That way we can get in behind the bed and paint on the cab and in front of the bed right there. So for now, we're gonna leave it all together. We're just gonna back mask in here when we go ahead and do our base right now. And then once we get through all that, we'll then slide that back so we can get in there. But everything's looking good. We're gonna get it blown off, get it in there. And I say if we get it based today and then intercoat clear, we're doing pretty good. So, a lot of masking to do. She's a big gal, but we can get it. So spots like this, when you scuff, they're really hard to get down in there and actually get those corners. And this one's a pretty sharp one. So paint paddle, scuff pad, push it down into that corner, lightly give it a scuff. We've got everything degreased, wiped down, clean. We've tacked it off. We've blown it off a couple of times. So we're ready to lay down some sealer. What I've got in the gun now is the Glasurit white sealer that we've tinted a little bit. So the first thing we're gonna do is just lay a coat or two over our primered spots just to help with coverage. And then we'll put some base in the gun and we're gonna base the whole thing red. Now, The reason the bed is still on the truck, we're not gonna paint the whole thing with it together like that. We've got it back masked in between the cab and the bed right now, and this is gonna be just for base. We wanna keep it together to lay down the graphics, so when we lay down the flames, everything flows together where it should. And once we get the flames all laid out, we're gonna unbolt the bed and just set it back a little bit, and then we'll remask in here, do what we need to do to get everything back there painted. Doesn't really make sense to pull it off now, then put it back on, then graphic it. We can save us a step right here by just a little bit of back masking, then we can rub out that baseline when we get back there to do the flames. So we're gonna get this covered, get the primer covered, and we're gonna get some red laid down. Once we do that, we're gonna lay down a coat or two of intercoat clear, and that's what we're gonna do before we lay our flames out. So let's get to spraying. All right, so we've got a couple coats of sealer down, ready to go in there and lay down base. We're gonna tack it off one more time when we get back in there. But what we've done, we've mixed up Glasurit 55 line Porsche red. This is the name of this color is Guards Red from a Porsche. So we pulled up the code in our system. We used our mixing bank. We got it all mixed up in the gallon can. This mixes 2-to-1 with reducer. So we're gonna go in there, get it tacked off, lay down a few coats of this red, and then we'll be ready for an intercoat clear. All right, coat number 1. So we're on our last coat of base right now. We're laying down 3 coats, about a 20-minute flash time in between each one. And it's pretty warm in here, so it's flashing off pretty quick. So one thing that I'm making sure to do when I'm spraying this is more important with metallics if you're spraying one together. I'm typically not spraying them together, but what I'm doing is as I'm spraying, if I'm spraying the bedside, I'm overlapping onto the cab 6 to 8 inches. As I come onto the door, I'm overlapping a little bit onto the next door. What that's gonna do is just ensure we're getting really good. All right, so we're laying down the 3rd coat of base right now. About halfway around the truck, we're gonna do 3 coats. Most important thing was getting all of our primer spots covered, which we started with a sealer and then we went on to base. Once everything was colored, we started to coat the entire truck. And what I'm doing, which is pretty good practice, and it really more along the lines when you're spraying metallics, if you're spraying one together, which I'm normally not, but it's good practice to kind of overlap your panels. So for instance, if we're spraying this bedside and I'm coming to the cab, I'm not gonna stop right on the end of the bed. I'm gonna go ahead and overlap onto that cab 6 to 8 inches. As I get onto that door, I'm gonna do the same thing going out to the next door. And what that's gonna do is just ensure that color match is right on point. Because if you happen to stop a little short on each panel, you could have a little color change there. So just good practice to kind of overlap those panels, especially when you're doing silvers and stuff like that. That works really well. So we're gonna finish up this 3rd coat. With this gun, we were laying down 18 PSI at the inlet. And if you go back to where we were spraying the 49 Chevy truck, we go through paint gun setup, all the good detailed stuff for how we're setting these guns up. So I wasn't gonna go into that here. So go check that video out if you're new to painting and you need to set up a paint gun. But let's finish this up. We'll lay down some intercoat clear, talk a little bit about that. So now it's flashed off, we're ready for an intercoat clear. So there's a few different things you can use here. There's 2 that I have here. My other one doesn't have a label on it, so I thought I'd show you this one. So on the Glasurit line of paints that I use, there is a B500, and that's an intercoat clear. So basically what that's doing for us is we're gonna lay down a couple of coats of that intercoat clear over the top of this red. So then when we go to mask our flames and paint our flames, let's say for instance we got a little overspray onto this red or something like that, we could actually go and sand that out. And then we won't be hurting our base coat because we've got a layer of clear over the top of that. So when we do graphics or anything, we're always intercoat clearing in between the graphics and all that. Another thing that an intercoat clear is really good for, if you're not a painter and you're getting into any of this kind of stuff, is when you're doing blending and you've got metallics or anything like that, you're trying to blend out a metallic, man, does the intercoat clear, it's a life changer. So if you're doing a silver and you've got any sand scratches or anything like that, and you just go to silver over your work or seal it and then silver it or whatever, and you have any fine little scratches from your sanding, really magnifies the metallic in those scratches and it's hard to get out. You've got to re-sand it again and all that. But typically if you go through and you intercoat clear it, it's going to bury that. And then when you go to lay down your base, it's really nice and even. You can also mix that into your base coat, kind of make it a little more transparent, so when you're stepping out your blend, it makes for a really nice blend too. Now the other thing we can use in this situation is, this is the 55M0. This is Glasurit's mixing clear. So this is a binder that would be on the mixing bank. Any other paints would have it as well. So this is just a clear base that would be mixed in the toners and some of the colors when you mix them. Basically just all we're doing here is applying a clear base over to the top of this to really try to protect our color. Now this would be super important if this were a pearl or a metallic, because if you sand into it or hurt it at all, you've got to reshoot it. You can get away with a little bit more when it's just a solid base like this. A lot you can do with intercoat clear. There's even more stuff you can do with intercoat clears than that, but we're not doing that, so we won't get into it. Okie dokie. We've got the B500 intercoat clear mixed up in the gun, the Glasurit. We're gonna lay down a couple of coats now. Same thing, 18 PSI at the gun, roughly a 75% overlap, but we're just gonna do a couple of medium coats. We don't have to go crazy and pound this on. We're just giving a small protection layer to this red. We've let that sit overnight. That intercoat clear went back over it. Just took a red scuff pad and we've just lightly scuffed the whole thing. Now you don't have to do this because just check those data sheets with that intercoat clear. You've got a certain window you're within. So if you go back and watch those Maverick videos where we did all that custom paint on that, I never scuffed anything because we were staying within that intercoat window. So if I was started to get to the end of that window, I'd just lay down another coat of intercoat clear and you're opening up that window again. But the reason I decided to go ahead and just scuff over this for that mechanical adhesion is, since we're just doing this on kind of the evenings and the weekends and, you know, the kids have a lot of stuff going on and all that, I don't know how much time I can actually just sit in here and dedicate to it. So I've scuffed over it. That way if I start laying down flames and I get pulled away for a day or two, it's not a big deal. We can just keep going and we're gonna have that mechanical adhesion. We don't have to worry about that window. But that intercoat clear is gonna help protect you know, anything that we may get on it, and we can sand it off. And then once we lay our flames down, we may go ahead and do another intercoat clear because then we're gonna pinstripe everything. But I'd say it's a pretty productive day. We've got everything based, laid down some color, a lot of fun. Now the real fun starts. Unfortunately, we don't have time to put all this in one video, so these flames are gonna take a little while to lay down and a long time to mask up. So we're gonna do that in next week's video. Don't forget, we've got t-shirts over on the website. There's a lot of shirts left over there. We've got a shirt coming on this truck, so stay tuned for that. That should be popping up there pretty soon. And we've got a little bit of time left to try to get this thing ready for Battle in Bama, and we've got a long way to go. But appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate all the comments, all the support. We love it. We're going to keep bringing this stuff to you. See you next time. Okay, flames.